Hi, my name is Dr. Nathan Groot. I am a music instructor at the Arkansas School for Mathematics, Sciences, and the Arts, where I teach string ensemble, applied string lessons, and other music courses. Today, we're going to be looking at Mazas Etude number 8, Division of the Bow in the Cantilene playing. This is part of set 1 for Arkansas, all region and all state auditions for the year 2023. So just a couple things to note before we get started. We are given a tempo here, quarter note equals 88. Try to shoot for that or as close to that tempo as possible. This etude is in A-B-A form. If you look at it, sort of from a distance, it looks like it's just A-B. So I want to draw your attention to the DC Alfine at the bottom there. So we play the opening, we get to a key change, we play the second half, and then we go back and play the opening again until we get to the fine halfway through the page. This etude is challenging in a lot of different ways. It's challenging rhythmically, it's challenging for the bow, and it's also challenging for our left hand. There's lots of shifting, lots of accidentals, and lots of pitfalls for intonation that we need to watch out for. So I'm gonna approach this video in a little bit of a different way than I've approached some of the other ones, if you've seen any of the other ones. Because this etude has so many different things going on, I'm just gonna go through chronologically, phrase by phrase. And we're just gonna talk about each phrase in detail, one at a time. After we go through and talk about each phrase through the whole etude, I'm going to play it at a few different tempos, going up from a slower tempo up to the goal tempo of 88. All right, so let's get started. We are in 4/4. You'll see that C for common time stands for 4/4. We start on the fourth beat, so we have an anacrusis or a pickup into the downbeat. This is important. This is going to be an up bow, and we want this to sound like it's leading into the downbeat. not like it is the downbeat itself, which is easy to do because this has an accent on it. All right, so at the beginning here, this is marked mezzo forte espressivo. So definitely don't be too loud, but we want it to still be a nice, full, resonant, soloist sound here. So here's the first phrase or partial piece of a phrase that we're going to talk about. Okay, just that much. So we start out in first position with a D sharp, so that's a high 3. And then we have an E. And then a shift up to third position. So this opening, this pickup, does have an accent on it, but make sure that it's not outshining the downbeat that follows. Make sure that it's still leading. You can have a little pinch there at that D sharp, but make sure that the rest of the notes are still leading into that downbeat E. Now, the first thing that a lot of my students have noticed when they first pick up this etude is, hold on, what's going on with this dotted eighth note? This is crazy. Don't overthink it too much. First, let's just sort of break down what's going on here in terms of all of the 16th notes that are contained within this first measure. So a dotted eighth note equals 3 16th notes. So we have a dotted eighth note and then a 16th note rest. So 1 E and is the dotted eighth note and ah is the rest. So I'm gonna play all of the underlying 16th notes. You can hear this is a metronome set on 60 with the 16th note subdivision. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. So I'm gonna play all the 16th notes that are contained within each of these notes. 1, 2, 3. See how that works? Now I'm going to play it as written, and I want you to listen to the metronome, all of those little 16th notes, so that you can keep an ear out for exactly how long each of these notes lasts. 1, 2, 3. Hear how those dotted eighth notes last exactly 3 16th notes? Shoot for that, right? So the last thing to talk about in this phrase is this shift. We go from an A, first finger, to an F, natural, fourth finger in third position. So how do we get there? So let's talk about a guide tone. I've talked about this and defined this in a lot of other videos, so please forgive me if this is review for you. But just in case, a guide tone is a note that is not written that we use to help us in a shift. So in this case, we have A to F natural. The guide tone that I would use in this is first finger C natural, because we're going from first position to third position. 1, 1, 4. Now, there is no C natural here. It's just A to F. But in order to make this shift accurate, I would encourage you to practice this by playing a C natural in between the A and the F natural. I'll show you what I mean. A, C, F. If you're having trouble getting the F, feel free to fill in other notes to get that hand shape down, that 3-4 finger pattern, and then transition into, right? So with the correct bowing, try it again. Practice that. When you're shifting, make sure you're letting off any finger pressure so that the finger is just gliding along the string, and make sure that nothing's being left behind. Everything is just moving as one unit. There's no, first finger going ahead or thumb going ahead or anything being left behind. It's just totally robotic, right? Good. Also make sure that from the very beginning, you're incorporating all of these hairpins, all of these sort of dynamic aspects here. So as we shift up, A, F, E, D, make sure that you're growing and then coming away. It could be argued this is part of the first phrase. Don't listen to this video in terms of a formal analysis class, please. This is just to break it down into as small of chunks as we can. So slight difference here. We start with a D sharp. A little bit different notes there, B, G sharp. Here, make sure that you're still thinking about those 16th notes. 1 E and a, 2 E and a. Now we have another shift. I would use C as a guide tone here as well. All the same rules apply. The only difference is you're now shifting from half position. If this spot is troubling you at all, try adding in G sharp, A, C. If you're having trouble going from that half position to third position, just feel that first finger that has been pulled back, snapping back to first position, and then you go, right? Just so that that distance doesn't feel too funny going from a G sharp, a low one, up to a third position first finger there for your guide tone. So we end this in third position, and we need to stay there for the next sort of mini phrase that we have. We just played a D to a C natural. We need to go back to that D plus a half step, a high 2 in third position, D sharp. 2, 3. Bring that second finger back so that we can get an in tune A, and then we have a fourth finger. Practice going back and forth. Back and forth between those so that you can get the feeling of having that kind of mobile second finger and lifting it up to go from D sharp to A, D sharp to A. So then after you play that A, shift down to a low 1. You have 1, 2, half step. Shift up to third position, C, C, F, E. So this has a couple of shifts, but it also has some accidentals to watch out for. I think the trickiest part about this one is getting that D sharp, E, A, C really in tune. So focus on that, especially for this little piece. So we just ended on a C natural. Now we need to shift down to first position, find G sharp. So this has a shift down, find G sharp, and then a shift back up to third position. We're still just dealing with first and third position, no big deal. Make sure that when you go from G sharp to C natural, you're getting that third finger back and nice and on the tip there, so you can play a really in tune C natural after having played a G sharp. Now, this is the first instance of these sort of grace notes that come in. So whenever you have something like this, you want to fit it in before the note that comes after the grace notes. So that in this case, this is the E, 8th note, that we want to fit these in before we reach that. I would encourage you to play this phrase without the grace notes first. So let's just try D, E, F, A, G sharp. So let's try it. Ready? And... we're going to want the rhythmic integrity of that to remain intact even after those grace notes are added back in. So let's try it. This This is actually just a turn, so it's an ornament. It's just written out. So you might see this as this symbol in other places, but this is what it's going to look like if it's written out. So we do E, D, C sharp. So a note above D, a note below D. All right, so now we've finished with actually what's probably the first full phrase or phrase structure, and this idea repeats again. So let's try the 16th notes that lead into the third line now. So this introduces to us a new rhythm, a sextuplet. It's grouped as 3 small 16th note triplets. So we start out with the familiar 4E and a 1, 2, 3, 4. That F, we're used to being just a quarter note. Now it's a dotted 8th note plus a 16th. Make sure that you don't turn this into a triplet. Make sure that there are 4 underlying 16th notes in there. I'll show you what I mean. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Versus 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Da 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 da. Make sure that you're hearing all of those subdivisions. Now, let's talk about the sextuplet. I would recommend practicing this separately, just starting on the second beat. This is made a little bit more difficult because it's tied from the first beat into the second beat. So try just starting on the E that's on the second beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you need to go slower, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Go nice and slowly until you get it. Then try, preferably with a metronome, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. From the first beat, and be feeling those sextuplet subdivisions in your mind so that you can hit that F natural on the second of the subdivided sextuplets. Okay, now for the next phrase. We're already in third position. This introduces a harmonic. The only real difficult part of this that we haven't done before is this figure. So we have a C sharp, and then we need to just flatten our fourth finger out and take the rest of these fingers off so that the harmonic can ring. So just again, try practicing this. Going back and forth between C sharp and D natural harmonic. So we need to keep the hand frame relatively stable so that we can find that B in third position again. So don't sort of throw all your fingers away, just take them very lightly off to reach that harmonic. And you don't need to shift the hand, it's just the finger extending slightly. Then with the 16th notes going into the fourth line, we have a high 2 here. Shift down to first position for a low 1, and then we have an open string which allows us to shift up and find that G sharp. You just played a G sharp, make sure you reach back for that C natural there. Now we have a shift of just a half step. So from C to B natural. Don't go too far here. Now we're back in first position. Back in second. Then another half step back. Your first finger's on D sharp. Shift up to third and a half. To F sharp. And now A. And now we have a fermata that's on the bar line. So we can take just a moment to reset, not too long, just a moment before starting the next section. All right, so let's talk about this dolce cantabile section. So the first section has no sharps, this section has 3 sharps. Nice parallel key relationship there. So this starts on a C sharp, dolce cantabile. Dolce meaning sweetly, cantabile meaning singing. So this is sweetly singing. One thing that's going to be our friend in terms of finding that sweetly singing tone is bow speed. Try not to use too slow of a bow here. You want to create this really resonant, vibrant sound where you're allowing this string to ring freely. If you're able to add vibrato, definitely feel free to do so liberally here. Let's take a look at this first sort of mini phrase segment. Here, I think the most interesting technical problem we have is a finger replacement. I'll show you what that is exactly. We start with a C sharp, and then we have our second finger on B natural, and between the up bow to down bow change, we need to replace the second finger with a third finger in the exact same place. So a good way to practice that is just to just do that. Second finger B, third finger B, second finger B, third finger B, and compare the pitches to see if they're exactly the same, right? In the second measure of this section, I think it's okay to hear the slide from G sharp to A natural. Don't make it super slurpy or slow. You know, a nice little snap here from half position to first position is fine. But if you're trying to make that totally invisible, it's going to be really hard and will have to involve changing what you're doing with the bow. I think in order to keep the slur, the integrity of the sort of smoothness of this, it's totally fine to hear that shift just a little tiny bit. For the A sharp, make sure you're doing a high 1. Then, third position for the next segment. This is trickier than it looks, actually, and I'll sort of take us through it to explain why. So we're in third position. This is fine, no big deal. Here we have an octave. Make sure that you have this set, C sharp to C sharp. It's going to be really obvious if it's out of tune. It's going to stick out a lot if it's out of tune. So we've just played that first group of 4, then we shift down to a high first finger E sharp. Here, it's really easy to play this D natural too high because our first finger is too high. So make sure that you really feel the fourth finger on the tip there. Feel free to use the third finger to help gauge the distance there. And then the first phrase repeats exactly again. And then we have a slightly different ending here, another contrasting idea. This A that we end on is kind of elided into the next phrase. It's really tempting to want to play this as a down bow, or at least is for me. I don't know if it is for you. I want to make this a down bow, but if you do, it's going to mess you up after. So make sure you're practicing that as being slurred from the previous phrase. Here we've just ended, shift up to third position. So we have an open string here. So you can shift down to the first position there. Another instance where it's okay to maybe hear a little bit of a slide there. Then we have... So this is a little bit tricky. Practice going from the E fourth finger until you can find it reliably. And then after you can find this reliably, try going from A to G sharp. And then once you have that down, A, G sharp, practice this. This little 16th note thing that's going on. This is kind of an easy one to fumble, and if you really nail it, it's gonna stick out as a good thing. And then we repeat again. This is kind of tricky here. Let's break this down. So this is starting at the A sharp to B, and then we have C sharp to D, and then we have a shift up to D sharp. Make sure this is just a half step. Just a half step above the D. We have D sharp, E, E sharp. Make sure this is only a half step above here. And then we have here in what is either fourth position plus a half step or fifth position minus a half step on this E sharp in harmonic with F natural. We have this finger pattern, our Star Trek finger pattern. Here, where we have a half step between the first and second finger, and then the third and fourth finger. And then we need to shift down to an A in third position. Make sure that the A in third position is really in tune, because you just played an A an octave above that, so it'll sound really out of tune if you miss that shift. Make sure these 30-second notes go fast enough. It's really tempting to draw them out. I do it myself. Make sure that all 4 of those fit into the space of 1/8 note. The closing section of the B section starts here. Totally fine to really milk that ritardando there at the end. Now, one thing that you're going to want to really pay attention to is the rhythm here. Sure, we have string crossings, we have other things. Make sure that the rhythm is really super sound. So same thing we were talking about before earlier with the 16th note subdivisions. Let me play this with all 16th notes. So the danger here is that these turn into triplets. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We want this to be da 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 da. Be thinking about those subdivisions when you play this. All right, and then it starts over. We finish with this G sharp. And now we have a pickup. Make sure you're going back to the first full measure. You don't play the pickup twice, basically. So you go back to the beginning, and then you play to the A, where it says fine, before the key change. And you're done. So here comes the part where we just play it at different tempos. Feel free to play along with this if you want. As always, if you're using earbuds, make sure it's not too loud so as not to damage your hearing. This is 50. 1, 2, 3. 55. 1, 2, 3. Time for 60. 1, 2, 3. 65. 1, 2, 3. All right, we are now at 70. 1, 2, 3. we are at 75. 1, 2, 3. All right, we are now at 80. 1, 2, 3. goal tempo of 88. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was somewhat helpful. As always, if I missed anything or glossed over anything that you would like to hear more about or need a little bit more information on, feel free to leave a comment below or reach out to me via my website or any of my social media. I would love to hear from you. All right, thank you so much. I wish you the very best of luck this fall on your audition. Happy practicing.